I have a dream, oh, I have a dream. Red, white, and blue, fly free, fly free. I believe, oh, I believe. Will you dream with me?
Good morning, everyone out there. Welcome to Changing Times. I tell you what a beautiful day in Springfield, Missouri. Going to be in the upper 60s. Tomorrow, guys, I think it's going to break a record. I think it's going to be 74 or higher in Springfield. I don't know about winter. They say December 1st is usually the start of winter, but doesn't look like that this week in the Ozarks. So hey, we're blessed with good weather. Well, we are on every Wednesday at 10 a.m. on the Axe Media Group's Facebook page. That's how you're going to find us. And we're live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. We do a show on social issues, social causes, anything that has to do with social science, basically. And we try to be a positive show, and we also try to come up with positive solutions. You're not going to hear too much negativity out of this show. You can see all you want of negativity on TV, radio, and print, but not here on this show. And so if you miss this show, the good news is you can watch this show any time of night or day, 7 days a week on the Axe Media Group's Facebook page. And you can look up Changing Times. You can go back to week number 1, Don, and you can see human trafficking. That was one of our most popular shows. It was our first show, but we've had tremendous guests, just like today. We've got tremendous guests. They're experts on the topic that we're going to talk about. And basically, this is a social issue. You know, retirement planning, trying to figure out how you're going to survive after you quit working and how you're going to make it with all the inflationary problems and everything that's going on today. I really believe this is one of the most important social issues there is trying to figure out how you can retire comfortably and not have to keep working and worrying about where's that money's going to come from. And then also we have, besides Brad Pistole, we have Hunter Pistole, and he is the Medicare expert and also health insurance expert that's going to talk about those things, which you got to pick the right Medicare plan. You got to pick the right health insurance plan. That'll keep your premiums down. It'll keep your copays down. It will have the best benefits. And if you don't spend as much money because you have a better plan, then you're going to have money to retire on and to use for other things. So I think this is going to be a great subject today. And then, Don, we are also live on YouTube. I don't know exactly how to tell people how to do that, but the people that know how to do YouTube can probably find Changing Times. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. We're also on Rumble, Daily Motion, LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn, and it seems like there's one more. We'll figure that out. And also, I heard Jim Whining say the other day that by the end of the first quarter, March of 22, we will be on 10 different social platforms. So they're going to add more social platforms. The more platforms that are added, the more people that can watch our show. So we're being seen right now, today, all over the United States and all over the world. So here's the next deal. Next year, we're going to make sure that we raise enough money that we can have equipment where a phone system where people can call in. We want to have live call-ins. That way you can ask our experts a question right then. But right now, your email address.
mycreativeworkhorse@gmail.com.
mycreativeworkhorse@gmail.com. Mine is LYNNMORRIS, Lynn Morris, 2012@gmail.com. You notice that mine is real simple. Hers is very creative. And there's the mindsets between the two of us. But I'm Lynn Morris.
And I'm Don Blackard.
And we are the co-hosts of Changing Times. And we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm excited today because these are friends of mine, and I do business with them. But I want to share their information with all over the country and all over the world. And I think that you're going to benefit from it. So good morning, Brad.
Good morning. How are you?
Well, I tell you what, I'm doing great. And we'll get Hunter in just a minute. But so, Janet and I have entrusted you with money to all the money that we wanted to retire with. We gave that to you, and you've done really good for us. And so I guess what I want to start this out with maybe two questions. How long have you been doing this? And then two, what do you provide for your clients?
Sure. So we are actually a 3-generation financial planning family. My father is still in business. He's semi-retired and he's kind of on his way out. He's 77 years old. But my father's been a financial advisor his entire life. And then I actually started my business 14 years ago. And ironically, not knowing what was about to happen in the world, I started it on January the 4th of 2008.
Oh, there's something kind of bad happened.
Something happened in 2008. And
Yeah.
the Lord knew. I didn't know what was coming, but my focus was different than my dad's, which he was actually a Merrill Lynch vice president. And I started my own independent firm, and it was safety focused. It was on the not the assets you want at risk, but the assets that you want to protect 100%. And so 1 year after I started the business, a nationwide program, Safe Money Radio, started in 2009, and they called me. And so I was the third person in the nation on Safe Money Radio. I've now been hosting a radio show, for 12 years, and I'm on 5 times a week locally in Springfield, but it's also heard in Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, all throughout Missouri. They're now Safe Money Radio advisors all across the country, but I'm one of the longest running ones. And so that's how my story started. And it's just been one unbelievable thing.
I think, Brad, that you have been a #1 Safe Money Radio program, haven't you been?
Pretty amazing, knowing that it's in all 50 states. It's like in 4 or 5 locations in Texas. It's all over California. In 2021, we are the #1 Safe Money Radio program in the nation, which is unbelievable.
Yeah. So I want people to know you're actually talking and listening to somebody today that is actually #1 in the country in the field that he specializes in. And so what kind of services do you offer your clients?
The majority of our clients on my side of things are in the 50 and above category. I do have clients that are in their 20s and 30s and 40s, but the majority of our clients are pre-retirees and retirees. They have 401ks and IRAs and work plans. It could be a 403B. I have a lot of pastors with 403Bs, but they're nearing that age where they recognize and remember what happened in 01, and they remember what happened again in 08. And now they're looking at the market at an all-time high, where we had the market, drop 900 points Friday. It dropped 650 points yesterday. And if they're nearing retirement, they're like, hey, I don't want to go through another 01 or 08. I'm too close to retirement. So the majority of our callers are people that are interested in safety. They want to kind of move away from the high risk stuff, and they want to protect what they've worked their whole life for. And it's a good business to be in when that's what you focus on, because there are about 13,000 people a day turning 65 right now that are moving into the world of Medicare, which Hunter will talk about, that also want out of risk. And so we've got a healthy handful of people that are interested in what we're doing.
So every day you've got a lot more clients that actually need your service.
Yes.
And so that's absolutely great. Well, one of the things Don and I, since you're a sponsor and you're our first sponsor on our program here, and one of the things I always tell people, it's never too early to start thinking about retirement.
Absolutely.
And so I'm glad you said that you got some 20s and 30s and 40-year-olds. Sure, when you start getting to be in the 50s, you better be really serious about it.
That's right.
And start making some concrete plans and have an advisor like you, Brad Pistole, because otherwise you're just not gonna make the right decisions. And I'll tell you the best thing that I believe that you did for Janet and I is you gave us plans that was 100% safe, that we weren't going to lose anything that we put into our plans, and 100% protected. And it just gives you a peace of mind.
Sure.
that I used to watch the stock market when I had a lot of stocks. I used to have 20 and 30 stocks, and I would watch it every day, and I would agonize every day about when it was going up, when it was going down. I had no control over it, but I was
Sure.
watching that. And then I know in 2008, I lost about 50% of everything I had that was in stocks and things like that. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it only took a few months for it to get to that point.
Yeah.
Where we lost about 50%, but it took years to get back up. And
Right.
so if you're wanting to retire during that time,
Yeah.
it's not a good time to retire.
Yeah.
And so thank goodness for you, you've got plans that those people can tap into, and they can go to sleep at night. They don't even have to worry about, I only have one stock right now, and that's Jack Henry. So that's a good stock,
You
but
bet.
it's gone down from 177 to 152. I still watch that just because I'm used to doing it. But I mean, you wouldn't want to sell it today. It's $25 below what it was 3 months ago.
Yeah. So quick story on that,
Yeah.
because this is the reality of being
Yeah.
on the radio and how many people we talk to. I have a current Jack Henry employee
Uh-huh.
that has been working toward retirement and retiring early.
Yeah.
And the bubble that's happened here the last few days, literally talked to him yesterday and said, hey, the stock's down $22
Yeah.
a share. And I can't do it. I'm going to have to keep working. I have to let it come back. And my clients don't have to worry with that.
Right.
We're taking that off the table.
Yeah.
And that's why you sleep.
So I thank you for providing that security for all of your people that trust you and retire plans with you, because I tell you what, to me, that's the most important thing, is that peace of mind that you know, and you divide. I'm going to get my distribution check this next week.
Yeah.
They've already notified me. And so I know exactly what it's going to be. And fortunately, Janet being younger than me, 4 years younger than me, she doesn't have to tap into hers. She's still just using mine. And we didn't have to use it last year because the government said we didn't have to.
Free pass.
So we put it back. This kept it in there. And so we're doing really good. And then we got that hers and my plan that I guess we tap into later on too, but we don't have to until she gets to be the proper
72.
age. 72. See, I was 71.
Yeah,
And
so
she-
you're one of those couples that falls into the weird boat where
Yeah.
you had to start at 70 and a half, and
Yeah.
she didn't have to start till 72 because of a law change last year.
Right. So I think that's going to work out good for us and everything like that. Well, next thing I want to talk about is, the way I met you was through a newspaper, USA Today in Florida.
Yes.
Jan and I were at our condo during Thanksgiving, and I was at a Denny's restaurant, and I grabbed the USA Today, and you had this tremendous article. I had no idea. I thought your name was pronounced Pistole. It was Brad Pistole. I thought it was Pistole, and I read this article to Janet while we're eating breakfast, and she, what are you reading it? I said, I want you to listen. We have to we have to take our money out of our IRAs because we'd sold our company. They gave us only so many days, and we need to make sure we find somebody to put our money in to start our retirement planning.
Right.
And so that's how I came to you, because how God works, this is so neat, because first of all, God put that idea in my mind. I didn't know who you were, and I was praying that somebody like you would be in Southwest Missouri. Okay. Then I'm at a little Sands restaurant cafe in Ozark, Missouri, on the way up towards Sparta, between Ozark and Sparta. I'm eating breakfast one morning, and I hear these four men, and one man, I wish I knew his name, but one man was talking about Brad Pistole. You're not supposed to eavesdrop, but I actually started eavesdropping, and because I quit talking with me, and I kept trying to listen what he was saying. So finally I just said, excuse me, guys. I said, I don't mean to be eavesdropping on your conversation, but I said, you're talking about somebody that I may be interested in. I said, is that Brad Pistole that you're talking about? Is he a financial advisor? And this man said, yes, he's one of the best. And so I said, well, I've been looking for him since Florida. And I said, where's he at? And he said, in Ozark.
Yeah. I
I said, well, I'm going to go find him. So this is exactly how I met you. And then Jan and I came in, and we spent 2 or 3 times with you, and you guys got us taken care of and things like that. Also, I think Lisa, I want to say this right now before I forget. Lisa, you have a lady at the front desk. You both are very blessed that you have her, because every time that you call on the phone, because I'm very particular about customer service. Yeah. I wanted my employees, when they called Family Pharmacy, I wanted them to be talking to someone that you could just tell they were smiling and they were glad you called and they were very helpful. That's what I really wanted. Okay. Well, Lisa is exactly that way. I didn't know Lisa to begin with.
Yeah.
But every time I call her to talk to you guys, she is so happy. She's friendly. She's courteous. She's kind. You can just tell that she's happy on the phone, and she's going to make sure that she gets the message and you get to talk to whoever, whether it's Hunter or whether it's Brad. She just does that. So you've got a great representative right there that I would say is excellent in customer service. And you guys are also excellent in customer service, but it starts at the very entry point of making that telephone call.
Yeah, a lot of people don't want to talk to me when they call because they'd rather talk to Lisa. And now we have Beth there, and now Hunter's there. But this is unique, Lynn. A lot of times when you call a financial firm, a financial professional, you're going to get an assistant or a secretary. Lisa has her license. Lisa's very educated in this regard. So not only a background, she's worked at banks, she's worked in the school system, but she also is a licensed professional. So people call in and think they're talking to a secretary, but when you call our office, you'll find out you're talking to someone that knows what they're talking about.
Well, I tell you what, I'm just really proud to know her too. And so, USA Today, but I was going to read some of these others, Retirement Daily, Market Watch, Ed Slott's IRA newsletter. You are involved in things all over the United States in publishing articles that can help everybody. Okay. And then all of a sudden, not only do you do that, you've got your newest book called Bulletproof. And I think that once you know about Brad Pistole and his first book, show them that book. It's Safe Money Matters.
Safe Money Matters was the first bestseller. Finding Safe Harbor in a Storm-Filled World. And then the new one is Bulletproof.
Right.
The Safe and Secure Retirement Income Plan. And actually the foreword was written by America's IRA expert and CPA, Ed Slott, very famous person.
Right. And so maybe this is a good time, on our show here and what we did on our radio show for the years that you sponsored that, we always gave out your local number. And I'm going to give that out right now. 417-581-9222. 417-581-9222. Now, the reason why I give that number out, I hope that you call if you live anywhere in Southwest Missouri, and we'll talk about where you're licensed at in other states. But if you live anywhere around Ozark, Missouri, Nixon, Missouri, Springfield, Missouri, Branson, Missouri, anywhere around that area, you need to be able to go and live person talk to Brad Pistole and Hunter. But it's going to be so important. But you can call that number 581-9222, and you guys will send them a book, right?
We actually give our material away free. That's correct. That cost me I can just tell you, it cost $18 a book to put a book with color photos on Amazon.
Wow.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
And there's more than $18 in the book. I can tell you that. But yes, we'll give our material away free.
Yeah. So that's very impressive, because I tell you what, when you gave me that book the first time that Safe Money Matters, which was the first #1 best-selling, this is also now the new #1 best-selling book for investments and retirement planning. I read that book. I read Safe Money Matters, and it just reinforced my feeling that I had chosen the right man to put my money in. To put my money into your hands to wisely tell me what to do, where Jan and I would be financially secure the rest of our lives. And so that's why you want to get these books, and you call 581-9222 and you can get those books.
You just talk to Lisa or Beth, and they'll put together a kit, and they'll customize it for you. They're going to want to know your age and a couple other questions, but they will customize a Safe Money kit and put a copy of the newest book in it and get it to you.
Well, I tell you what, I think that's going to be really worthwhile. I think, Don, you had a couple questions that we were going to ask Brad.
Yeah. So when someone calls into your radio show, how do you determine what type of account they should put their retirement money into?
Fantastic question. So I'm a what's called a CFF. That's a special designation. It's a certified financial fiduciary. And the word fiduciary gets thrown around all over the place, but this is actually a special designation that I have. And so what drives the CFF designation is making sure that you're always doing what is ethical, moral, and in the best interest of the client at all times. And I have to be able to prove in writing why I gave the advice that I gave and why I suggested that. So because I've been on the radio for 12 years, a lot of times people will call in and say, "Hey, Brad, my name's Bob, and I've been listening to you for 6 years. Where should I put my money?" And so they've had a triggering event that made them finally call in, and it may be retirement or inheritance or a job change. but they don't realize I don't know who they are. They've listened to me for a long time. They've seen my videos. They've watched me online, but I don't know them. So I do free financial consultations with clients to have them come in, and I'm going to go through a very specific process of finding out where their funds are, what their entire picture looks like, and specifically the account they're wanting to talk about. What is their purpose for that account? In this newest book, I will talk about the 4 primary purposes of money. And I have to know what the purpose is before I suggest what you should do with it. If a financial professional never asks you what the purpose is for your money, he already knows what he was going to tell you to do ahead of time, and it was more about him and not about you. So sometimes that answer might be, you don't need to change anything. You're where you need to be right now. And we tell people that a lot of times. But if someone says, hey, I want 100% safety, or I don't want any more than 20% of my money at risk, and if they're 100% in the stock market, then we have a problem. We've got to find products and accounts that will fit their purpose for that money. So that's how we determine it, is talking to each individual, finding out what their specific situation is, and then making suggestions based on what their purpose is for that money.
Yeah, well, that's great. That makes a lot of sense. So what is the best retirement advice you would give to our listeners listening in today?
The best retirement advice, you absolutely cannot take a dart and throw it at a dartboard and say, okay, I'm 40 now, I should start. What should I put it in? Well, let's just see. You need to determine what your threshold for pain is. And I know that, kind of going full circle, you read an article in Florida at a Denny's. It was because a certified financial planner named Robert Powell, if you Google Robert Powell, he's all over the internet. He had asked me to be interviewed for that USA Today article. He called me about 3 weeks ago and asked me to write a new article for Retirement Daily. And I wrote it. He didn't know what the topic was going to be, and they actually published it on November 2nd. And after it had been published for 2 weeks on Retirement Daily, they called me and said, hey, this is getting all kinds of national press. It's been clicked on as much as any article we've ever put on Retirement Daily. Could you do an interview with us? So I did that interview Monday, and it's actually on our website right now. It just went live. And even as a part of what he was asking questions about in this article, the best advice I could give, which I talk about in this new article, is take your total pots of money. Doesn't matter if it's savings, what's under the mattress, what's in a 401k. You need to determine what your threshold of pain is. So let's just use a number. If you have got $100,000 saved, and hey, if I lost 20,000 of that, I'd be okay. I don't want to, but I'd be okay. But if it went any lower than that, if it got below 80, I would be fire mad. Okay. You got to figure out what that threshold is. And then we need to determine a plan based on that. If you don't have any idea, you'll end up in an 08. Your 100,000 will turn into 50 or 45, and then you'll panic. We can't have that happen. So you have to have security measures in place to make sure I'm never going to go below my threshold of pain. Of course, we want it to do great. We want it to turn into 200 or 300, but I don't want it to go below this. Figure out what our safety measures are and then go from there. So you're going to have to, it's going to start with you. You're going to have to be very involved in your financial plan to determine what your purpose is and what your threshold is, and then communicate that to a financial professional and let them guide you in the right direction.
That's great.
Well, one of the things too that we're going to skip and go over to Hunter next, but one last question and then we'll go back to you.
Sure.
So one of the things that you and I have discussed and I think is extremely important is before people start thinking about retiring and things like that, it doesn't matter whether you first just got married, you're a young couple, you first got married, or you've been married 10 years or 15 years and you're still not quite ready for retirement planning yet. You got to have an emergency fund.
Yes.
And I know that you believe in that. And I know that you got to have, you don't want people taking, because one of my kids, unfortunately, was having to borrow money out of her IRA for retirement because she ran into some difficulties, and you take that money out and it's really hard to put that money back in. Sure. And stuff like that. So you want to have an emergency fund. And it could be $5,000, $10,000, $3,000, whatever. Just knowing that you could have a car expense that could be $5,000 today, or you could have a air conditioning or heating system at your house go out, and you have to buy a new furnace or something, and it could be $5,000 or $10,000. I mean, things just happen. Yes. Things happen, and so you got to systematically put money in a savings program, I just say a simple savings account, you're not going to make any money, but you'll make a tiny little bit, but at least systematically put it in there. And then once you get to a certain spot where you feel like that's your pain level, what you're talking about, then you need to start thinking about putting money into a retirement plan. Isn't that correct? We don't want to.
Absolutely. So you touched on something key, even using the example of your own child. A lot of times people that have the emergencies, it's when we're younger in life. And so Uncle Sam's got all these rules for tax deferred accounts. If it's a 401 or an IRA, and if you take a withdrawal before age 59 and a half, not only did you take it out of your future retirement account, it's also taxable. There's also a 10% federal penalty on it. There's state tax on it.
Right.
So it'd be better if the concept of paying yourself first. If you're a believer, you pay the Lord first, then you pay yourself after that, because you have to have that emergency fund before it goes into a retirement account, because you don't want to tap into something that's going to have a penalty on top of it. So in this area, and I know this may sound like a huge number to people, but I say if you're a single individual, you need to work toward having at least 25 to 30,000 saved in an emergency fund. If you're a married couple, it needs to be 40 to 50. That you don't put anywhere else, don't invest it, keep it liquid, 100% accessible, because the roofs, the cars, the emergencies, the babies, the expenses, they're going to come.
Right.
And you don't want to tap into retirement accounts to get that money. It needs to be liquid money.
So I think that's very good advice, and so really appreciate that. Well, we're going to switch gears and talk to you, Hunter. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Hey, I appreciate you being there with your dad and doing a great job. So you're really focusing on Medicare and on health insurance plans.
That's right.
That's what you're doing, and that's a pretty complex area too.
It can be fun.
That may be more complicated than what your dad's doing
At times. Yeah,
It certainly can be.
And so but you have the same position as your dad. Is you've got to be able to pick the right plan for the right person.
Right.
And I want people to know out there that health insurance and Medicare are two things that aren't really like home insurance and automobile insurance and things like that, because I look at Janet and I'll use me as an example again. My health issues and my wife's issues aren't anywhere near the same.
Yeah.
And she hardly takes any medicine. So, but I take quite a bit of medicine, and so more than I want to. And so, she doesn't need the same Medicare plan I do probably. And same way on health insurance, she doesn't necessarily need the same health insurance plan. And so I'm sure that one of the things that you're seeing is people come in and they just think it's simple. I'll take the same plan. Husband and I'll take the same plan because that's what we do in car insurance. That's what we do in home insurance. That's what we do in everything. We always do the same.
Sure.
But you probably educate them to let them know that sometimes different plans would be better for each one of them.
Right. And so many times I am working with spouses, and it's great to want to do stuff together, and State Farm and the bundles and the savings, but it's not always really what's best. And that's extremely important, especially, what Dad and I do. It's heavily regulated. There's so many rules, and they're not, as publicly known just by the general public as you'd like to think. So it's really important to take it one person at a time, go through everything. And Medicare is so regulated, I can't go into a lot of specifics, but I do want to stress that it's important to go to someone that knows all of the specifics and, will take the time to go through your specific situation with you, because you can find yourself in a mess.
Well, and we've got a date coming up. I know this being December the 1st, we've got a date coming up that's the last date to enroll for Medicare this year.
Right. It's annual enrollment period. And that's for if you are already on Medicare, you have until December 7th. That runs from October 15th to December 7th.
Yeah. So that is an important date. You still got time. People still have time. I mean, this is my second year for Medicare, and so I'm having to enroll before the enrollment date and things like that. But then that's an important date. But then what happens to people, just like Brad said, every month we got these different people retiring.
Right.
You've got people turning Medicare age every month. So for all 12 months, you've got people turning Medicare age. What do those people do?
Right. you have what's called your initial enrollment period as well. And that actually starts 3 months before you turn 65. So people get into the issue where, they'll come into my office. They're like, "Hey, Hunter, I'm retiring, next Friday." And I'm like, "Awesome. Well, we don't have a lot of time. We have to move quickly." And, a lot of times that can cause issues because getting your Medicare card, the mail is slow, and you can find yourself cutting things pretty close, and it can get a little bit fun. It's best to always be ahead of the ball. A couple months early is not too early at all. In fact, if you want to just call me and chew my ear 6 months before, a year before, because most likely you're going to have something re-explained to you because Medicare is confusing. I do it all day, every day. And a lot of times I'll find myself stumped and I'll have to call someone and, I have to have people that mentor me just because there's so many rules and it changes all the time. The plans are competitive and they're changing benefits and rates every year. It takes someone that has high energy and is willing to do it, which is, I think, why Dad was like, "Hey, Hunter, you should do this." Because
I give all my turning 65s to Hunter.
No, that's really good. And one of the things I want people to realize, and we'll go back to Brad and then we'll go back to Hunter. So, I'm the guy that, and there's a lot of people like me. I didn't, when I turned 65, I wasn't thinking about Medicare. I was a state representative at the time. I had great health insurance through the state and didn't term out till the end of last year, 2020. I just started taking Social Security out at 70. January in 70. So I haven't really been receiving Social Security very long myself. And then you were able to give Janet great advice. And so she draws off my Social Security. So she's not tapping into her Social Security.
Right.
And so and she's going to continue to work or not work now because she's retired, but she's going to not take out her Social Security until the last day.
Maximum.
Because what do we max? 13% extra a year? Is it 13% or how much extra a year if you each year
8% per year roughly is the roll up.
Okay, 8% a year. So if you wait 5 years, you're gonna have a 40% raise in your Social Security from that point on.
And she was one of the very last people because of a new law that could piggyback on that and do that. People that are younger than her can't do that now, but yes, that's right.
So it really worked out good for her because she's getting a good Social Security check every month and not even touching her base.
Hers is still rolling up every year.
Yeah.
That's right.
So good advice. So you've got Medicare, you've got health insurance, people needs, they're going to need those all the time and things like that. What kind of questions do you see people asking you when you come in? What's their biggest dilemma?
There's so many commercials that are going on right now. And we were out at our farm, hunting last week. And after the morning hunt, we'll come in and sit down and watch TV, watch football. And I'm flipping through there. I'm like, dude, I can't say the company name, but X company has, commercials and literal TV programs running all day.
All day long.
And it's really confusing stuff. If I wasn't an agent, I remember thinking I would have no clue what they're talking about. And I'd get scared. And Matt, so it's an array of things that people hear on TV that just confuses them. And so I get that, they're trying to push and they want to do the right thing, but most people don't understand what's going on. But a lot of questions lately have been penalty related, late penalties.
Sure.
And a lot of that happens because you don't know what you don't know. And like I said, people will come into my office, "Hey, I'm retiring, in 3 days. What do I do?"
There are deadlines for when you sign up for certain plans,
special enrollment periods.
Yeah.
And they all have different lengths. And if you weren't an agent, you wouldn't know it and you wouldn't think you'd need to know it. And then you find yourself up against the clock and things are slow moving right now.
Where it can get really challenging, Lynn, is if you're losing credible coverage, if you're retiring from a job, you're losing your current coverage, and then your spouse was covered on that too. And let's say there's an age gap, which there normally is. And so you maybe are on Medicare age, but they're not.
Right.
So you're going to have to move on to a Medicare plan and the right one based on your zip code and your financial situation. But your spouse may be on traditional health insurance because they're not on Medicare yet. And Hunter does all that. That's why they would be on different plans.
Right.
One may be a traditional health insurance, one may be Medicare. Finding the right prescription drug plan and all that. So,
and as far as it relates to what me and Dad do together, kind of tag teaming, there's Medicare surcharges. When your income is at a certain level, your premium can actually go up quite a bit, and it can be a big deal.
Right.
So whenever, he has a client with retirement accounts and I have them on Medicare, we're always making sure that we're keeping numbers where they need to be to make sure that they're not, getting their premiums racked up to a place where it just becomes unbearable.
Well, I think that's important. So you're really helping those people. Well, one of the things that I see being a pharmacist and knowing cost of medications and all the things that people have to take, it looks like that one of the most important things is make sure that we've got an advisor like you and your dad that can help people, because say all of a sudden you sign up for a Medicare plan,
Right.
and based on the drugs that they were taking at that time, because you got to make sure you write down those drugs and give them to the financial advisor, and they're going to make sure that those drugs are covered with the least copay and all that type of stuff, and the right tier, because all these insurance companies have different drugs on different tiers where you pay more. And even sometimes the plans will change every year. So drugs go on different tiers that cost you more money. But what happens to the person that, they're just now getting ready to sign up. They've never had Medicare before. We've got these time dates getting ready to happen. And now all of a sudden, 2 months later, say February or March, they end up with, we'll say blood clots like I had.
Right.
And now they're taking Xarelto, a very expensive, and there's one even more expensive than that. That's about 10 times that amount. Right. But they're expensive. And so then what happens? Can those people, what can they do when their health condition changes?
A lot of times it depends on, the time period when they signed up, and I guess a little bit of that question was slightly confusing. There are some instances where you can apply for extra help.
Okay.
And it's really finite. And, being in the business only 3 years now, I haven't had something like that come up yet. I know it will. It will at some point. So I'll get to learn.
Yeah,
I'll be able to tell you
it's going to be something that's really going to happen, because your health condition can change any month of the 12 months a year, and you're going to be in a plan, and you're going to have to try to figure those kind of things out.
Correct.
I know these eye injections I have in my eyes, which sounds terrible to have a needle in your eye about every 8 weeks. I'm getting better, thank goodness, and hopefully we can end those this year. But had some swelling in the eyes and affects my vision, so I have blurred vision. So those things are $8,000 a shot. Since I have two eyes, it cost me $16,000. That's when you really want only one eye in the middle. But I got on a plan. Luckily, my Medicare plan paid a lot of it, but I ended up paying, about $1,600 a time, and insurance paid the rest of it. That's still a lot of money for a lot of people.
Right.
But I was able to pay that. But then I found out about a plan that the drug company had, and so now they pay for all of it. I pay about $40 out of that $16,000 every 8 weeks.
Well, and that's why the annual enrollment period is so important, because your health is going to change daily, monthly. And so what you're on right now may not be what you're on the next year. And finances change. So in both sets of worlds that we're talking about, there's been a lot of job change recently. There's been a lot of mandates, and there's been people walk out of the workforce and quit. Their plan was to retire at 65 and they're retiring at 58. So life changes, and then you have to be able to go with the flow. And that's why working with someone that's staying on top of that constantly is critically important.
Well, guys, we're going to run out of time.
Yes.
How do people get a hold of you? And then we're going to talk about these toys.
Go to our website anytime, guaranteedsafemoney.com. Call the office, 417-581-9222. And we're on the Lambert's exit in Ozark, about 1 block away to the east.
Yep. So
Awesome.
Very good.
Well, Lynn, I just want to say that, first of all, you guys are difference makers. We have a lot of different people that come on the show, and we always say be the change, but you guys are making Acts Ministry possible by being our sponsors. And, last week we had Harmony House on here, the biggest domestic violence center in the state. And so we're doing a toy drive for them. So Ozark Jubilee, which is going to have their first show starting this Saturday, donated these toys. But because of you guys, we've been able to cover really hard topics, from autism to suicide prevention, to domestic violence, and many, many more. And so we just want to thank you guys for what you're doing. Yes, you have this on lockdown. And if anybody is questioning, they need to call you. That's what I've got from this, is that you're here to talk to people and help people navigate those issues that they're having financially. But we at Acts Ministry just want to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts, and we really appreciate what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
You're very
Thank
welcome.
you.
Very good. Thank you guys very much. Brad, Matt, are we out of time?
Got 1 minute.
We got 1 minute. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll just very briefly just talk about next week. Next week, we've got a minister that's going to be on, someone I know personally. He is the Capitol Commission minister at the Capitol in Jefferson City. He lives in Ozark, Missouri, and he spends 3 days a week during session and has Bible study. We all go, not we all. So there's 163 state reps and 34 senators. About 60 of us go to Bible study every Tuesday at 7 a.m. when we're in session. He also goes around the entire Capitol, and he doesn't just pray and listen to the elected officials. He does our staff too. Very important, because we're almost like a little city when we're up in Jefferson City, and there's always something going on that's a negative situation, and it could be an illness, it could be a divorce, whatever. And so he'll be on next week and talking. And he also is the dean of the Evangel University ministry program.
Fantastic.
So hey, thanks for being here today. God bless you guys. We'll be back next Wednesday, 10 a.m.
Can I